Yo, what is up, guys? It's Gavin from Legacy Bros, and today I'm going to be coming at you with part 3 of my Pokemon Go tips and tricks videos. Now, I would like to start off by saying if you have not seen part 1 or 2 yet, go check those out, because those can be helpful for you. So the first thing I want to start off talking about today is buddy tips. Now, some buddy tips I have for you is that buddies are just things you can put beside you, like down here, and you can gain candy by walking with them. You all know, to hatch eggs, you have to walk so many kilometers, and that's how it works with buddies. You can have buddies ranging from 1 kilometer walks to get a candy, 3 kilometer walks to get a candy, or 5 kilometer walks to get a candy. And that just ranges on Pokemon's how good they are and their rarity. Now, I want to talk about what Pokemon you should put as your buddy and why. Now, I would recommend putting something as your buddy that you are fairly close to getting, but can be good, or something like that. Like, say you have, like I do, I have 45 Grimer candy, and I want a new muck, because this one's not very good. I called it wild, and stuff like that. Now, I am very close to getting 50 candy to evolve my Grimer. So I put this muck as my buddy, because I'm only like 4 candy off, and once I get those 4 candies, I can evolve again. So that is going to be very helpful to me. Now, you could just keep going with it and get extra candies to power up or something, and very many people do that. Or you could take it off as soon as you get it, which is what I usually do. Now, I would not recommend putting anything like a Leadba or anything really not very common or anything that's going to benefit you as your buddy, because that's not going to help you in the long run. Now, that is what I got for buddy tips. Now, next thing I want to talk about is one of my favorite tricks in Pokemon is how to name your EVs and how to get the evolutions that you want. So as you can see, I got quite a few different evolutions. I have all of them. My Umbreon is right there. As you can see, it's starred. So how I got these is you name your EVs. And you can only do this one time, so make sure you're careful with this. So if you want to get, say, a Vaporeon, for example, you can go into an EV. Let me find an EV real quick. And you could just name it Rainer. So I'll spell that out for you guys. Rainer. Now, if you would hit evolve, you would get a Vaporeon. But I wouldn't, because I have already done this trick one time. You can only do this trick one time with each evolution. So after I do Rainer one time, it's not going to work again. It's not guaranteed to give you that Vaporeon that you want. Now, same goes for anything. Tomeo for Umbreon, Sakura for Espeon, Sparky for Jolteon, and Pyro for Flareon. Now, that's how you get the EVs that you want. Now, next thing I want to talk about is nest and cluster spawns and what the difference is. Now, cluster spawns is an area that spawns usually quite a few Pokemon. Like, I have one cluster spawn off the top of my head that I can think of around me. And it's just a small area that spawns a lot of Pokemon in the same spot. Now, these cluster spawns are usually not going to spawn anything rare, anything crazy good. Now, cluster spawns have a lot of common, low IV Pokemon. You're never going to get a bunch of high IV, like, you're not going to find a 100% IV Larvitar in a cluster spawn, usually. Just because that's what cluster spawn is. It's a group of Pokemon that are common, low IV, and stuff like that. Now, a nest is different, because a nest is an area, like a park, a stadium, something like that spawns a lot of the same Pokemon. Now, I've been to a few nests recently. I went to a Chikorita nest recently, a Machop nest, and nest is how I get a lot of my good Pokemon, like that Machamp, Amistar, Charizard, stuff like that. That is how I get that stuff, from nest. And in a nest, a lot of the same Pokemon spawn. Now, you could have very frequent spawning nest, moderate nest, or you could have not very good spawning nest. So you could go through a park, which could be a nest, and it could spawn, say, for example, 5 Charmander. Now that'd be a pretty active nest, but it depends on how fast it refreshes. you could have nests refreshing every like 20 minutes, or they could refresh like in 10 minutes. I've been in a nest where I've got like 125 Chikorita candies in an hour, and I've been in a nest where I have got like 12 Charmander candy in an hour. It just all depends on how frequently spawning the nest is. You can have very frequent, moderate, and not very frequent nest. So next thing I'm going to talk about is I'm gonna keep going into nest. Actually, I'm sorry. The nests are going to migrate, and what that means is nests are going to change. It'll be the same spot, like that park in your town is still going to be a nest, but it's going to be spawning something different. And what can happen is that the nest, when it migrates, that Pokemon, say you have a Charmander nest at a park, and it's going to migrate every 2 weeks on a Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So, I'll say that one more time. It'll migrate every second Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So, say you have that Charmander nest, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on the second Wednesday, it's going to change. It could go really to anything else. Now, it's not going to go to something like a Dragonite nest. That doesn't exist. Stuff like Dragonites, that really good rare stuff, that's not going to exist. I don't think I've ever seen a Dratini nest or a Larvitar nest, just because that stuff is very rare and hard to come by most of the time. And Niantic is not going to make overpowered nests like that, where you can get a Larvitar, or a bunch of Larvitars to make a good Tyranitar in one day. You can have a lot of, I've seen a lot of starter nests, but nothing overly crazy. So that's going to be it for today. Thanks, guys. See you later.